Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise, and it's time for another weapon preview. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Switch Axe because I figured it would be a good follow-up to the Charge Blade. Now, at first glance, if you're just watching some gameplay from Monster Hunter Rise, the Switch Axe isn't really going to look that different. But when you actually look down to the nitty-gritty and you analyze the combos and all of the different quality of life things that they brought to this weapon, it is actually a significant change for the better. Not to mention that Silkbind skill that you get that gives you hyper armor while at the same time beating the crap out of the monsters. Good God, that is a godsend that gives you so many options like, oh, the monster's about to roar. Well, I guess I'll just go into my Silkbind skill and boom, they call it the Invincible Gambit. So I'm gonna go into the Invincible Gambit and boom, punish that roar. Monster's about to attack me with something that I know I'm not going to be able to dodge. Well, I guess if I'm going to eat the damage anyways, I might as well dish it right back to the monster. It actually got to the point that I was beating on Mizutsune so hard that I forgot to look at my health because my brain was basically thinking, hey, my hunter's not flinching, that means I'm not taking damage, right? But as it turns out, that is actually not the case. You can still essentially kill yourself by spamming Invincible Gambit at monsters, which is a damn shame. If you were just like completely invincible while you were doing it, I wouldn't do anything else. But anyway, let's take a look at this beast of a weapon because I really enjoyed playing with it yesterday as I was trying to figure out the different movesets and the things that actually changed with it. So, first things first, let's take a look at the axe combos because obviously the whole thing about this weapon is swapping between axe and sword. So yeah, you still have your X combo, which is fairly basic, doesn't really change all that much. It's a couple of interesting moves here and there. You can move it forward. If you press forward and axe, as you guys see, there's a little bit of a lunge forward. That is your basic axe attack. Then you still have your A attacks, which as you can see, you go straight into wild swings. Now, this is a move that I'm not actually sure if this was just introduced in World. I think this might have been in previous Monster Hunter games, but I didn't play the Switch Axe all that much on previous games, okay? So bear with me here. So basically pressing A will get you into wild swings and you can spam it and it spends your stamina. And very much like in Iceborne, if you press X midway, boom. Did I say axe? I meant X. If you press X midway, you get this new move that increases the power of your hammer, and you can see that is displayed on the top left hand with two arrows pointing upwards on the right of your weapon gauge, okay? And I believe that in Iceborne, that increased part break damage. I'm not exactly sure what it actually does in Rise. Let's just assume it still, adds to part break damage and flinches and stuff like that. So that is a move that you will definitely want to keep in mind. You do a couple of wild swings, then you finish it up with the X, and that boosts your flinching potential. Now, another important move that people tend to forget when talking about axe mode in Switch Axe is whenever you press back an A, because it gives you kind of like an exit, and it covers quite a bit of distance, as you can see there. So like you're in the middle of an axe combo. I mean, not if you're in wild swings, because unfortunately wild swings is just pressing A. That's not going to do it for you. But if you're doing anything else with the axe, you can press back an A, and that is going to give you a pretty decent dodge. Not to mention that after you do that, you can also dodge backwards, thus increasing the amount of dodging that you end up doing. So that's quite a bit of distance that you can cover if you need to get away from like an engagement with a monster, and you can cover quite a bit of distance backwards. But that's kind of like your exit out of axe mode. Now, if we swap into sword mode by pressing the right trigger, you still have the same combos that you had in Monster Hunter World, which as you can see right here, this is your X combo. And then you have your A combo, which still does the same moves. Now, the A combo charges up your weapon more in terms of you being able to actually activate file mode, which for those of you who don't know how this works, you basically get to amp up your Switch Axe by repeatedly hitting the sword mode in the monsters. And if you're using the A attacks, at least in World, it used to amp up a little bit more than in Rise. Now, one of the things that I can instantly tell you about Monster Hunter Rise is that it takes significantly longer to get the amped state. Now, I'm assuming that if you put in focus, that is going to speed up you getting to amped state. At least that's the way it worked in World, even though it wasn't considered a valuable enough skill in Monster Hunter World for you to actually slot in for focus, because, you know, you could get the amped state pretty fast. I think that is going to change in Monster Hunter Rise, but I could be wrong. Let me know, all of you Switch Axe mains out there, what are your thoughts and how fast you can actually get your weapon into amped state? But to me, it seemed like it definitely takes significantly longer than in World. But once you reach that amped state, every hit that you deal in sword mode is going to do an impact, not an impact file, it's going to do the file effect of your Switch Axe, which in World it could be like, I think you had Elemental and Exhaust and Power. Was it just Power file? I don't know, Power was like the physical one. And I believe there was like a special one for Dragon. I don't really remember all of the elements in the Switch Axe, but yeah, there's quite a few different file effects that you can have with a Switch Axe in World, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing here. Now, the really cool thing that they did in Monster Hunter Rise is that after you reach amped state, that amped state carries over into Axe mode. So your Axe mode is also going to deal file damage for as long as your weapon is amped. And that is a godsend, because Axe mode, it just allows you to basically choose, do I want to be in sword mode? Do I want to be in axe mode? Whereas in World, it almost felt like, you know, axe mode is just something that you do kind of like when your sword mode is down. And then when sword mode is back up, you just go into sword mode and deal optimal damage. That's kind of how it felt. But now, you know, the window is a little bit murkier, okay? Not only that, but you might remember, anyone who's ever seen like videos of guides and whatnot in Switch Axe, people would tell you, okay, so the most powerful way of the most powerful move that you can do with the Switch Axe is the one where you swap from wild swings into your sword change. So that move right there is like one of the hardest, at least it was one of the hardest hitting moves of the Switch Axe. Well, the cool thing now is that it doesn't automatically transfer in the sword mode. Like, you guys saw me transfer into sword mode because I pressed the right trigger twice. But if you press the right trigger once, it is going to stay in axe mode and allow you to continue using axe mode. You can actually go from that move right back into axe mode swings by pressing X, and then you can go right back into wild swinging, into doing it again, and then X again, and then boom, continue wild swings, and again you go, which is really cool because this is a really strong move for the Switch Axe, and now it doesn't automatically swap you over to sword. However, if you still want to go into sword, like I said, you can just press the button twice and off to sword you go and continue your onslaught of moves. And again, you can also swap back to axe at any point. So the whole thing about Switch Axe is about you figuring out what's the best point to switch in between sword mode, axe mode, and what do I want to be doing with it, right? And the good thing about the changes in Rise is that axe mode also gets those power files, okay? So that is just a complete godsend as far as I'm concerned. So now we have two Silkmine arts to look at here. And one of them, like I mentioned at the start of this video, is one of my favorite new additions to the Switch Axe, and that is the Invincible Gambit, which is your left trigger and X, which does this move, and this not only attacks, it also gives you hyper armor, so you can't be stopped while you are doing this, and it allows you to close gaps. So if there's a monster, and you can aim this in pretty much any direction, so like say there's a monster behind you, no problem, press back and the Silkmine attack, and off you go. Even if you're in the middle of a move, right? So like you're in the middle of wild swings, and you're like, oh, the monster is to my right. Here I go. Boom. It is beautiful for repositioning, for going through roars, like whenever a monster is roaring and you're in the middle of an attack or something, it's like, boom, here we go. Kapow! And you punish all of the roars, no problem. It is a fantastic move. Like, I wish I had a move like that in the Gunlance that I'd just be like, yeah, man. It's like, I don't care. I'm just going to chart. Actually, there is a move like that in the Gunlance. We just haven't gotten to use it in Monster Hunter Rise Demo now that I think about it. But yeah, so that move is amazing. The other Silkmine art is also really, really good, despite the fact that at first glance, the animation might not seem like it, right? You do this, and there's like, what did that really do for me, right? Well, previously, If you were to expend the entirety of your sword gauge, which by the way, whenever you are in sword mode, you'll notice that there's that gauge right there on the middle of our sword gauge, which is decreasing. The more we use it, the more it decreases. And by the way, allow me to tell you guys about the different combos that you can do in sword mode if you have like an opening. So if you spam A and then use X to kind of like connect them together, this will charge your amped state a little bit faster, right? So you go X and then A, and then X again, and then A. This loads up your amped state, which the amped state, by the way, is represented by the glow around the weapon, which we'll see in the other gameplay that I showcased throughout this video, right? So that's the fastest way to increase your amped state. However, if you want to just like deal damage, you'll actually want to do something different, which I will show you after I show you what that Silkbind art actually does, which if you notice right now, we're kind of running out of sword gauge and just like, oh crap, that means I have to go back into axe mode and that's going to slow down me getting into amped state. But you use the Silkbind art, which is right trigger and A. Oh, would you look at that? Not only do you gain a bit of gauge, but on top of it, that gauge does not reduce. And remember, because of the fact that both these Silkbind arts only cost 1 wire bug, you can just use it again. Boom, and you're good to go into sword mode, right back to where you were. Now, like I said, I was also going to show you the combo that usually in World was the one that dealt some of the most damage with Switch Axe. I'm not sure if that is still the case because I didn't play Switch Axe all that much during Iceborne, but it was basically like X, 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 and then A, and then X, X, and then A. Actually, I shouldn't have gone that third attack, but it's basically like X, X, and then A, X, 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 A, X, 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 A. It's like basically juggling that is going to be one of the biggest like damage dealers you can have, I think. But the thing is, probably in some of the gameplay that you'll be watching throughout this video, I'm going to be fighting Mizutsune, which means a lot of the times what I actually end up doing is the Silkbind art Invincible Gambit, because, you know, Mizutsune is just like a very agile target. But like overall, I cannot stress how good it feels to play the Switch Axe. Like, it feels way better than it did in World, at least for me personally. Just the simple fact that you can bring in the amped state into axe mode is pretty much a game changer. Then on top of it, you have that Invincible Gambit, which also benefits from you bringing the amped state into axe mode, and you just destroy stuff, okay? And I'm not even that good at playing Switch Axe, but I can tell you right now, it feels friggin' great. Oh man, I got so excited talking about all of the new changes to the Switch Axe that I almost forgot to talk about the Element Discharge, which is still in the game. Before some of you guys might be thinking, oh, you mean Element Discharge is no longer in the game? No, it's still there. You can go into sword mode, and if you press X plus A, you're gonna go into Element Discharge, which should be a fairly familiar move to anyone that played Switch Axe during Monster Hunter World, and it works very much the same way. So basically, if you do Element Discharge and then spam X, that is going to do the big explosion that we are all used to. Let me just reload by using the new Silkbind art. And if you happen to do that while you are in amped state, it will still clutch onto the monster and like unload in the monster's face and deal additional damage as it is unloading. So that works just like it used to, and you can still do it in the middle of combos. So like you can go through your A combo and be like, yeah, and then follow it up with the Elemental Discharge. You can also stop it early, I would assume, just like we were able to do before by I think it was by stopping to press X, or is it pressing X and back or something like that? Let me actually get some gauge. It's just, I haven't been able to use that all that much because I've mostly been fighting Mizutsune, and there's not that many openings that I've seen. But yeah, you can go like that. And yeah, if you just press back at any point, it just explodes prematurely, so that you don't have to commit as much to that particular attack. But yeah, the Element Discharge is still there, as well as all of the other stuff that I've been talking about. And the weapon feels friggin' fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So big win for the Switch Axe right there. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section down below, and by leaving a like if you enjoyed it. If you do not enjoy it, hit the dislike button, because feedback is important. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.